In this video, I will be ranking the albums by Bay Area thrash metal icons Testament. They have a total of 12 albums. I'm only going to be doing the studio albums. I won't be doing any live albums or EPs. I won't be doing First Strike Still Deadly from 2001 because that's kind of just an album of re-recordings of older material. Testament is a band that I have been listening to for over 30 years. They are one of the thrash metal bands that I ever started listening to back in 1989. This is a ranking I have wanted to do on my channel for like a really long time. So now wasting our time, it might be a little controversial. I know there's like one album that I'm going to put at number 11 that you might disagree with. But anyway, let me just jump right into it. So at number 12, I have Low from 1994. They went through a few lineup changes here. So we have James Murphy on guitar, John Tempesta on drums, and this is their last album with Greg Christian, the bass player, and he would eventually rejoin. I actually like this album a lot. They incorporated lots of like groove metal. At that time, Pantera was very like big at the time, so I think a lot of the metal bands were trying to kind of do that type of thing. But a lot of good stuff here. The song Low is a really good one. Dog-Faced Gods, a really good one that's really heavy. They have an instrumental. I'm not even going to be able to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to even try to say it, but I really like that one a lot. It's really instrumental. They do a lot of pretty cool stuff on that one. And that's right. The rest of the album is good. It's not like great, but Testament has like a really great discography. So this is like an 8 out of 10, but everything else is just like a lot better. So anyway, let me get to number 11, which is Souls of Black, the fourth studio album. Came out in 1990, and I know I'm ranking this one low, but this one never really like clicked for me. I had the album when it came out. When I was young, I was maybe 19 years old when it came out. So I had been listening to it, over the years. But the problem is just the production. I always thought that it just seemed like very rushed. But with that being said, I have it over low because it does have some really great tracks. For example, the title track, Souls of Black, that's probably one of their like best songs. And they have a ballad called The Legacy. That's a really good one. And 7 Days of May is a really great one. So I think like the rest of the album is kind of filler, but those 3 songs I mentioned are just really killer ones. And for that reason, I have it at number 11. At number 10, I have Demonic. That one's from 1997. This is the one album that sounds different than most of the other ones. I think it's an album a lot of people like don't like. They tried some different stuff here. They abandoned the thrash metal and they're playing like a mixture of like death metal and groove metal. And, you listen to Chuck Billy's vocals, they're like a lot different. They're really like low and, they sound a lot different than the other albums. But I do enjoy this album. It's different. Best songs here are John Doe, that one's really good. The Burning Times is another good one. So it's a good album, even though, I don't have it ranked very high, but the other ones are a lot better. At number 9, I have The Gathering. This one's from 1999, and they had some lineup changes. It has Steve DiGiorgio on bass guitar and Dave Lombardo on drums. So the lineup is just a really awesome lineup. So they kind of did what they did on Demonic, and they kind of took that death metal and groove metal, and then they kind of like went back a little bit backwards to like their thrash metal roots. So it's a very unique sounding album. I like this one a lot. My favorite tracks, DNR, Do Not Resuscitate, True Believer. That one's really cool, very atmospheric, very catchy, kind of like a sing-along song. Legions of the Dead, that's just an awesome, heavy song, and really good album. It's a little different than the others, but it's just not straightforward thrash metal. At number 8, The Formation of Damnation. This was from 2008. This is the first album with the new material since The Gathering from 1999. So kind of like a comeback album. Alex Skolnick is back in the band after a long break, and Greg Christian is back. And it's a return to form, straightforward thrash metal. The title track is about September 11th. And my favorite song, More Than Meets the Eye, one really catchy. Kind of has those like, whoa, whoa. I really love that one. And the rest is just straightforward thrash metal. I think they have one song, Dangers of the Faithless, which they kind of do like a little groove metal, but it's a really solid album. At number 7, Brotherhood of the Snake. This is from 2016. And Steve DiGiorgio kind of came back to the band here, and this was mixed by Andy Sneap. So he's a popular mixer and engineer in metal bands. Just very solid, consistent album. They're doing what they do well. It's just straightforward thrash metal, start to finish. Really good start with Brotherhood of the Snake and the Pale King. And the only one that's a little different, maybe like Neptune's Spear. That's like a little slower, maybe like kind of like a doomier metal, but very solid thrash metal album. At number 6, I have Titans of Creation. This was their most recent album, released in 2020. This one came out right like around the same time as like the pandemic was emerging. So, they're actually like touring for this album right now. They weren't able to tour back then. And this is another solid, consistent album, straightforward thrash metal. They incorporate a lot of melody into the songs, Children of the Next Level. That one has really catchy riffs. City of Angels, really cool song. Really nice bass playing in that one. And that one's a little slower. And there's Ishtar's Gate. That one has some, really great riffs, really great bass playing. So if you're a fan of like Steve DiGiorgio and his like bass playing, this is a really good album for that. And that's why I have it at number 6. It's a really good one. At number 5, Dark Roots of Earth. This one came out in 2012. And on this one, they had Gene Hoglan on drums and the rest of the classic lineup. Another straightforward thrash metal, just going back to the roots. And I like this one a lot. This is actually like the best of their like more like modern albums. And it's really great. It starts with Rise Up, going into Native Blood. And the title track is pretty cool. And then there's True American Hate. That's a really great, heavy song. And they have one of their ballads, which they haven't really done in a long time, called Cold Embrace. That's a really good song. And it's on par with some of their other ballads, like the ballad in Return to Serenity. And, they do have some covers of, they have Animal Magnetism by Scorpions, Power Slave by Iron Maiden. And actually, I really like that cover of Power Slave. I think that's like one of their best covers. So at number 4, I have The Ritual. This is from 1992, their 5th album. And the last album with Louis Clemente on drums and Alex Skolnick on guitars. They, of course, do come back later, but this is more of like an accessible album. A lot of people call it like their Black Album. It's a little more, like accessible, easier to listen to, and it's a good album if you're not like a metal fan and you want to check out the band, and this will be a good starting place. And I did have this one when I was younger. I really liked this album a lot. Electric Crown, a really great song. So Many Lies, near the great one. The Ritual, that's one of the ballads, and the other ballad being Return to Serenity. It's just a very good album. My only complaint, maybe it's a little long, they maybe could have trimmed it a little bit, but the songs are really good on this one. At number 3, I have The Legacy from 1987. An awesome debut album, straight ahead thrash metal. The sound actually reminds me a little of Slayer. They play like really fast paced thrash metal. And what's interesting, the original vocalist was Steve Zetro Sousa from Exodus, and he was replaced by Chuck Billy. And then we got Alex Skolnick on guitars, and just straightforward heavy thrash metal. Just front to back, brutal thrash metal. Lots of great songs. Over the Wall, that one's really great. The Haunting, that one's really cool and technical. Alone in the Dark, that one's really cool. It's actually kind of melodic as well. Apocalyptic City, that one's just one of the signature tracks. So definitely an awesome debut album. At number 2, The New Order. This was released in 1988. This was the 2nd studio album and another great album. It came out only a year after their debut, and I think they kind of like took what they did in the debut and then they kind of did it a little better. So Eerie Inhabitants has some atmospheric sections, clean guitars, and there's some really bangers. Trial by Fire, that's really great thrash metal. Into the Pit, that's another great one. Very heavy. Disciples of the Watch, very memorable song. Then there's an instrumental called Musical Death. And I think that's the first instrumental, I believe. And they do a cover of Nobody's Fault by Aerosmith. Kind of interesting that a thrash band would cover Aerosmith, but they actually did it like very well. And at number 1, I have Practice What You Preach, the 3rd studio album. Came out in 1999, kind of a breakthrough album for Testament. This one entered the top 100 in the Billboard chart. It was certified gold. It was on MTV. It was pretty impressive, like for a thrash metal band, and this was the first album I actually ever bought by the band, so that's why I kind of do have a little bias towards it. But it's just awesome, start to finish. Practice What You Preach, the title track, really great thrash metal. Time is Coming. This one's really good. Catchy Greenhouse Effect. And then The Ballad, really love that one. You know, when I was like 18 or 19 years old, I used to listen to that one all the time. I would sing along to it, and I love that one. Confusion Fusion, that's an instrumental, closes out the album. And this is a really great, awesome album. And that is all. I'll see you in the next one.